If you're a fan of the Gone series and you haven't already, go and join the Gone unofficial Discord, link in description and in the pinned comment. As we all know by now, the 20-mile wide world of the FAYZ is certainly not a nice place to be. I mean, with psychopathic superpowered children running around, it's never gonna be a utopia, but as I've said in previous videos, with everything that happened in the FAYZ, I'm surprised anyone made it out of there alive at all. But while we as readers obviously very often think about what it would be like to be these characters within the FAYZ, I don't think a lot of people really stop to think about what it would be like if we were in there. Now, today is actually a very special day in the Gone community. It's not today for me because I wouldn't be able to record this and edit it and get it all up within one day. But for you guys at least, today is November 10th, and that is actually the day when the FAYZ wall went up. I would say that's when everything started in the Gone universe, but those of you who have read the books know that weird things were happening long before the FAYZ wall went up in this universe. Now, once I found out that FAYZ Day was a thing, and kudos to Deca Talent on Twitter for letting us all know, if you're a fan of the Gone series and you use Twitter, then absolutely go and give her a follow. But having been enlightened to the fact that this day was a celebration in the Gone community, I knew that I had to do something. I considered doing another death video, but I haven't gone through my notes on hunger yet, and I know that I'm going to have to do some calculations based on the deaths in the future books. And I haven't done those yet. So I was trying to think of something to do for this celebration, and that's when I remembered a video I'd stumbled across whilst getting back into the Gone series. And that was an interactive choose-your-own-adventure style video that was released to coincide with the release of Fear, the 5th book in the series. Now, before you get excited, let me reveal to you the disappointing reasons as to why my reaction to this video is not going to take very long. Now, I have not actually watched this video, but I did have a look at the comments, and according to the comments, the acting in this video is pretty terrible. But that's fine. I mean, we can make fun of stuff like that and have a laugh about it. It's no problem. But unfortunately, that's not even the worst of it. Because you may be thinking that at the end of this video, 2 end screens will pop up, just like in A Heist with Markiplier. No, that's not the case for this, unfortunately. Because this video was released 11 years ago, and the little options at the end for choosing what you want to do next rely on annotations. You guys remember annotations from back in the day? Those colourful boxes that you could put at any point during a YouTube video? Sometimes they just contained messages or behind the scenes stuff, and then sometimes you could actually like click on them and they could take you to the next video. You know, annotations, a feature that was removed from YouTube years ago. So the integral part of the video, which is choosing the choice that takes you to the next video, is based on a feature from YouTube that doesn't exist anymore. Oh, but don't worry, because it gets even better. Because I actually found an extension that reactivates annotations on old YouTube videos, and I gotta be honest, I didn't really have any faith in it working. But lo and behold, I activated the extension, and there they were. The annotations were restored. And when I clicked on the annotations to take me to the next videos from the choices, I discovered that all 3 of the videos had been made private. So yeah, this was what I was supposed to be doing for this video, but I had the foresight to actually do some research into it beforehand, and yeah, discovered that it wasn't, it hadn't exactly withstood the test of time. Now, I tried everything to see if I could find a way to download the private videos to show you guys what each of the choices were, and I couldn't find a way. And it's a real shame because something like this sounds really fun to react to. And presumably it would have had like multiple different pathways for us to try, so yeah, it's a real shame. But regardless, we have the video by itself. It's only 1:22, but I guess we ought to react to it. Well, here it is. Fear, a Gone novel, interactive video. Let's see if it's as terrible as everyone makes it out to be. Can you survive the FAYZ? Probably not. If you can survive, Michael Grant will reveal secrets from fear. On sale April 2012.
I don't hear them anymore. They're gone. The bugs. They're all gone.
Okay, I can kind of see where people were coming from with the bad acting. But what's weird is that this video is supposed to be based around fear, which is based several months after the events of Plague, and yet from this, I can sort of tell that it's meant to be, like, immediately after the bugs have all disappeared. Which happens in Plague. I also don't think these are meant to be, like, any specific characters. I guess they're just, like, random kids from the FAYZ.
How's that possible, Lindsay? We were getting swarmed.
I don't know, Kyle, but I don't see any out there. Not one.
So what, we can finally go outside?
And find food?
Gabe, the bugs weren't the only thing to worry about, you know?
Yeah, Gabe, you fucking idiot. Get with the program. We've been in the FAYZ for months now. Yeah, I can definitely tell where the comments were coming from with the bad acting.
Penny hasn't been around.
Josh stopped screaming.
He stopped screaming because he bashed his head into the ground. Penny drove him crazy.
Wait. Hold on. This isn't making any sense in my head. These lot have been holding out in this house to hide from the bugs. The bugs that are attacking Perdido Beach in Plague. And yet these two have just talked about Penny torturing someone named Josh and him bashing his head in because Penny drove him insane. But number one, Penny never tortured anyone to death ever, I don't think. And number two, if the bugs have just disappeared, then Penny and Kane have only just come back from the island, so why the hell is Penny going around torturing people? The timeline, it's not fitting in my head! But I will admit that I kind of like these characters. These aren't characters that were ever mentioned in the books, I don't think, but yeah, these guys are funny.
You all saw through the window. It might be best if we wait here a little longer.
And what, eat the couch?
There's those cans of food in the kitchen.
Take your chances with those bulging cans. Botulism, anyone?
Mate, do you know how long canned food lasts for? That's apocalypse food right there. That stuff lasts for ages. Also, we're like 7 months into the FAYZ at this point. How the fuck do these guys still have canned food? 2 books ago in Hunger, people were eating each other's cats.
Karen, you do remember what happened when Josh went outside yesterday? The screams? That's his dead body on the curb.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh at that, but that was just so sudden. And the fact that there's no music at all either, it's just like, they're talking so dramatically, just like, oh, Josh was our friend, he went outside and got tortured to death by Penny, look outside, that's his dead body, and it just suddenly cuts to just that. Oh, this is funny, this is really good.
Well, then what?
Ah. And that's all there is. You see, the annotations are there because I've got the extension, but if you click on them, the video's private. I tell you what, that's actually a real fucking shame because I enjoyed that a lot more than I thought I would. The acting wasn't the best, but it wasn't actually as bad as I thought it was gonna be. And to be honest, just this alone makes me hyped for what the TV series or movies are gonna be. Because this alone, this relatively poorly acted, very low budget, little 1 minute 21 video, this was, you know, I enjoyed this. So just imagine what a fully funded production of these books would be like. Keep your fingers crossed, Gone fans. Believe in Michael Grant. He will get this to us, I believe. So seeing as unfortunately that video can no longer tell me whether or not I'd survive in the FAYZ, I decided to spend the rest of this video thinking it over. What would happen if I was in the FAYZ? Would I be able to survive? Now, my chances of survival within the FAYZ would be heavily dependent on 2 factors. 1, whether or not I had powers, and 2, whether I was at Perdido Beach or Coach Academy when the FAYZ wall went up. First off, let's talk about what would happen if I didn't have powers. Now, of course, you've got to remember that all of the kids in the FAYZ are under the age of 15. So I'm 21, that means I would be 7 years younger at least if I was in the FAYZ. So let's start with a version of me that's normal and in Perdido Beach. I'm a 14-year-old kid in Perdido Beach, and suddenly the FAYZ begins. What happens? Well, first off, I think being without my parents probably would have hit me hard. I know it obviously hit all of the kids hard, but I have a very close relationship with my mum in particular, so I think that probably would have hit me really hard. But like all the kids in the FAYZ, I suppose I'd have to get over it. Now, of course, we start with the events of Gone, and not a lot of dangerous stuff happens in Gone, so I think I would have been alright. When Kane and the other coach kids rolled into town, I think I probably just would have kept my head down. And of course, at the end of Gone, you have the Thanksgiving battle, and I like to think that I would have had the basic intelligence to just sort of run into a house and hide. I mean, that's what Duck did. It managed to work well for him. But yeah, there's no way in hell that I'd even try to get involved in the whole Coyote Coach versus Perdido Beach battle. There's no way. I'm not a fighter. So I hide in a house and survive Gone. That's good. Hunger, again, if you're not a main character, there's not really a lot of dangerous things that happen in Hunger. The worst thing, I think, for someone normal, like me in this case, would be resisting Zill and the human crew when they were using the freshly killed deer to convince people to help them hang Astrid and Hunter. Again, we'd all love to say that we wouldn't help Zill and his gang of murderers, but you know, hunger does things to people. But I like to think that I would have held on to my morality long enough to, you know, not help Zill and his gang when they were trying to do that stuff. And I was saying that there's not really a lot of dangerous stuff in Hunger, but of course, it's in the name that kids were starting to starve. Now, I was going to say that I don't think that'd be much of an issue for me, as during my university years, I was regularly skipping meals. But then again, I've got to remember we're talking about a 14-year-old version of me who's still growing and still needs the food, so yeah, maybe it would have been a bit worse for a younger me. But regardless, moving on to lies, again, for half the book at least, for a normal person, there's not really a lot of dangerous things. As long as I decided not to take a moonlit stroll by myself and probably get ambushed by Zombie Drake, I think I'd be okay. But then, of course, you have the fire of Perdido Beach, and it was never really revealed how many people died in that fire, but I imagine that at least, you know, a few people did. Now, growing up, obviously, I wasn't particularly strong or athletic or fit or anything like that, but I did at least have a decent bit of intelligence. Now, the fire did take place at night, so I guess I would have been at home or, you know, wherever I'd ended up living by this point in the FAYZ. So I guess I would have either looked out my window, realized Zill and his crew were setting things on fire and run for the fucking hills, or I guess I just would have had to hope that Zill and his crew didn't come to burn my house. But I don't think the fire was too severe in terms of people getting killed, so I think I'm surviving that as well. And as for the end bit where everyone's just sort of running scared because there's Drake and Zill and his crew are going crazy, I guess just luck would probably help me survive that. Again, the fact that I'm a normal and not a freak gives me a pretty good advantage in surviving hunger and lies. Moving on to Plague, this is where it becomes very luck-based. Because, of course, the biggest thing for me to worry about in Plague, whether I'm a normal or a freak, would have been the supernatural death cough. And for those of you who haven't read the series, yes, that was a thing. For those of you who don't know, the supernatural death cough was a flu that literally made you cough up your own organs. And yeah, it was pretty bad. So again, I guess I just have to hope that I didn't catch that. But again, it didn't seem as though too many people died from this, so I think I might have been okay. Besides, I think this version of me very much would have gotten used to the idea of keeping my head down and keeping out of everyone's way. Because that's how you survive in the FAYZ as a normal person. You keep your head down and you avoid all of the big battles between the scary mutant people. But then, of course, comes the attack of the bugs, and I think the same technique that I would use for surviving the Thanksgiving battle might actually help me here as well. The only problem is that I would definitely be amongst the crowds of people who were watching Kane stride off to do battle with the bugs, and thus I probably would have been in the line of fire when the bugs turned on all of the crowds. But you know the age-old saying, you don't have to run faster than what's chasing you, you just have to run faster than everyone else. So let's say that with a decent bit of luck, I'm surviving the bug attack as well. And you best believe that at the end of Plague, I'm pissing off to Lake Tremonto with Sam and the rest of his crew because fuck staying in Perdido Beach with Kane and Penny, no sir. Now obviously by going to Lake Tremonto, I'm able to survive most of the bad stuff that happens in Fear. Because really, the only bad thing that happens to the sort of general population of the FAYZ in Fear is when what's left of the Coyote Pack attacks the people moving from Perdido Beach up to Lake Tremonto. And obviously if I'm already at Lake Tremonto, then I bypass all of that. So I think for the months in between Plague and Fear, I would have a pretty easy life at Lake Tremonto. Maybe I'd help Cinder with her garden, that seemed like something fun that I could do. Although there is the slightest chance that I might fall victim to being one of Little Pete's experiments whilst he's locked in the void. So let's just hope that his curiosity didn't attract him to me and make me into a horrible monstrosity. Now, Light. The endgame. Now, obviously in Light, the barrier turns transparent, so all of the parents can see into all of the kids. But I'd be at Lake Tremonto, and my parents would probably be outside the dome at Perdido Beach, and even after everything, I think I'd, you know, sort of realize that, you know, I'm not an idiot. I'm not going to make the journey to Perdido Beach because, you know, that's dangerous. Now, it's highly likely that I may have been slaughtered when Gaia decided to pay a visit to Lake Tremonto. Although my whole deal in situations like this seems to be just hiding from the battle, so if I was lucky and I was like on the shoreline and not in any of the boats, then maybe I could have made a run for the trees and gotten away from everything whilst Gaia basically disintegrated the place. Obviously, if I survive that, then I'm heading with Astrid and the others to Perdido Beach, and it would probably be at that point that I would go to the barrier and try and find my parents. Now, obviously, Gaia would eventually come to Perdido Beach as well, and she would eventually slaughter a good deal of children who were pressed up against the barrier. And again, luck plays a part in it. Some kids got away, some didn't. I like to think that I would try and do something different and not just run, maybe just run in a different direction, hide behind a house, or, you know, just drop to the ground and let people run over me rather than, you know, get disintegrated. So I think with a decent amount of luck that normal me, if I was in Perdido Beach at the start, may have been able to survive the FAYZ, if I was lucky. Now let's move on and talk briefly, because it will be brief, about what would happen if, for some reason, I was a student at Coates Academy when the FAYZ wall went up. Now remember, we're still talking about a version of me that doesn't have powers, so I'd just be a scrawny, scared kid that wouldn't be much use to anyone. So I'd basically spend the entirety of Gone in a state of perpetual terror from Kane and Drake and everyone else. So, yeah, I wouldn't have it easy in Gone if I was a Coach kid. In Hunger, obviously, things are starting to go downhill for the Coach crew. And again, I'm not a fighter and I don't have powers, so I'd pretty much just be baggage. I wouldn't be surprised if Kane or Drake just decided to kill me one day. But I'd spend the months in between Gone and Hunger in a state of perpetual terror as well, because it was Drake ruling Coach, because Kane was out of action for a couple of months thanks to meeting the Gaiaphage for the first time. But obviously I wouldn't go to the power plant with them because I'm not a fighter, so I'd just be at Coates. And by the time we get to Lies, I probably would have starved to death or turned into a cannibal just like Diana and the rest of the Coates gang. And to be honest, if I didn't die of starvation by the time Kane and the remaining Coates students made a run for the island, I probably either would have fallen off the boat out of pure exhaustion, or be one of the people left in the boat that Kane couldn't reach, and was thus left out in the boat to starve to death. So there's no way in hell that I'm surviving the FAYZ if I'm a normal Coates kid. It's not happening. Because you've got to remember that Coates Academy was an entire school full of kids, and by the time we get to Lies, there were 4 of them. Kane, Diana, Penny, and Bug. 4 kids left out of an entire school by the events of the 3rd book. Now let's move on to the fun part. what would happen if I did have powers? Now, obviously, there are a lot of different mutants in the FAYZ and a lot of different types of powers, and some are really useful in fighting, and some are very much not. Now, obviously, I could talk through me having 1,000 different more minor powers and, you know, how that would affect my life in the FAYZ, but to be honest, I don't really think that's worth talking about. The only thing that's worth talking about is a version of me that has a power powerful enough to mean that I am one of the main power players in the FAYZ. So the power that I'm going to choose to have for this example will actually pay tribute to one of the series' more underrated characters. And that's Andrew. Now, to those of you who have forgotten who Andrew is, he was the 3-bar that was left in charge at Coates when the dude that Kane left in charge whilst he went to Perdido Beach turned 15 and left the FAYZ. He was the dude who had the power of shockwave projection, and to be honest, I'm really sad that he left the series so early, because he was shown to be able to go toe-to-toe with Kane when he returned to Coates, and Andrew thought that Coates was under attack. And anyone who can go toe-to-toe with Kane is a pretty powerful mutant. And it would have been really cool to see what path Andrew would have taken had he not exited the FAYZ so early. Because I think if Andrew had stuck around, he would have become one of the major players in the FAYZ, and I even think that he could have given Sam, Kane and Drake a run for their money. So in order to talk about what would happen if I did have a major power and how that would change my path, I'm going to say that I would have Andrew's power of shockwave projection. Now, I did forget to mention in the segment where I talked about normal me about turning 15 and not leaving the FAYZ. If we're saying that I'm 14 in this, my birthday's in May, so if the FAYZ wall went up in November, that means I would have had, like, most of the duration of the FAYZ whilst I was still 14. I think my birthday might have come somewhere in between Plague and Fear, and I think at that point, you know, having heard the stories that something is trying to tempt you to leave the FAYZ and it's some sort of creepy monster, I think I would have chosen to stay in the FAYZ. But regardless, let's talk about if I had powers in Perdido Beach. Now, most kids in Perdido Beach who develop powers develop them in between the time skip between Gone and Hunger. If for whatever reason I had powers before that, I think I definitely would have helped out in the Thanksgiving battle. You know, take on a few coyotes, save a few kids, maybe even help Orc fight Drake. Because I know I described that, you know, normal me was all about hiding and, you know, staying out of all of the fights, but I think being gifted with a power that powerful would have actually given me the confidence to step up. And besides, you know, who hasn't always dreamed of being a superhero? So if I develop powers early, I'm definitely surviving the Thanksgiving battle. Hunger isn't much worse, to be honest. Again, there was the sort of emergence of Zill's human crew, but with me having the power that I would have, I'd be able to defend myself against them. Although, if I did have a power that good, I probably would have gone with Sam to the power plant to help him fight Kane and the others. Lord knows how that would have gone, but I think I probably would have helped Sam turn the tide on that fight. Moving on to lies, things probably would be getting a little bit more difficult considering Zill and his human crew were cracking down on the mutants. Who knows, maybe I would have been on the town council and I definitely would have been on Sam's side during that book. Definitely in support of him, given that the council were just sitting by and doing nothing while Zill and his human crew were going around causing chaos. Now, come the fire of Perdido Beach, I guarantee you I would have been right out the door following Sam to go take on Zill and the rest of his cronies. Although I probably would have ended up helping Decker, Jack and Orc in taking down a bunch of the houses and trying to stop the fire. And at the end of Lies, when Drake made his terrifying return and Zill and his human crew were going crazy killing people, I don't know, I guess I just would have had to hope that my power was strong enough to keep me safe. Moving on to Plague, I suppose I could have been one of the people that went with Sam to Lake Tremonto to go check it out, but to be honest, I probably would have been one of the people that was left behind at Perdido Beach. In that case, I probably would have tried to help Brianna take on Drake in the church with, probably the same results. I don't think shockwaves would have done much to Drake, to be honest. And of course, after that comes the arrival of the bugs. Now, whilst my shockwave powers probably wouldn't have done much to the bugs themselves, I think they would have been pretty good at keeping the bugs away from me. So yeah, I think I'm probably surviving Plague as well. Moving on to Fear, I definitely still would have gone with Sam to Lake Tremonto, so I might have been one of the people that went with him to check out the missiles. But again, I don't know, he didn't take everyone, so I might have just been, you know, chilling at Lake Tremonto. But again, I definitely would have been one of the people to go with Deco and Brianna to try and save Diana from Drake. And that would probably result in me either being there with Jack and maybe being able to help him get to safety when Drake slashed his throat, or me being with Decker and being mentally tortured. But either way, I'm probably surviving Fear as well. Now, when it comes to Light, obviously I'd still be at Lake Tremonto, so I would be there when Gaia decided to pay us a visit. Now, it's totally possible that I could have died during this sequence because, you know, it's Gaia, and I don't think shockwaves would have done much to her anyway, and she would have been able to turn my own power against me and everyone else. But if I attacked at just the right moment, I think I could have helped Brianna actually take on Gaia, and not die in the process. But when it came to the final battle of Perdido Beach, honestly, I think that's where I'd meet my end. Because I doubt that the version of me that would have gone through all of this would have just sat back and let other people sacrifice themselves. So I think I would have gone out fighting Gaia, and you know, I'm happy with that. Now, I would like to talk about what would happen if I did have these powers but was a coach kid instead. Now, whilst I think that being in the company of people like Sam and Astrid and Quinn would have allowed me to build up my self-confidence and allowed me to become a hero, I think being at coach would have probably not done that. As we know, the mutants who didn't serve Kane and Drake were cemented, and I wouldn't want to be cemented, so I think I would have served Kane out of fear. Now, obviously, I would have been a pretty powerful weapon for Kane to use as a 3-bar, so I may have been there with him in the Battle of Perdido Beach. But again, that all depends on whether or not I develop my powers early. If I was, maybe I would have hung back at coach, or maybe I would have just hung back in general, you know, not wanting to hurt people and seeing that, you know, the people I was with were very bad people. But I probably still would have gone with Kane and Drake out of fear of what they would do to me if I, like, tried to abandon them. In the months between Gone and Hunger, I might have tried to keep my head down considering Drake was in charge. Although, if I wanted to, I could probably take on Drake when he's non-immortal. But regardless, I would definitely obviously be one of the people to go with Kane and Drake to the power plant, and probably be quite a nuisance for Sam and the rest of the Perdido Beach mutants. Going into Lies, obviously, the whole thing of starvation sets in, and I would have either starved or, you know, killed myself or resorted to cannibalism. I think this version of me might have been in too deep to, you know, care about cannibalism at that point, so, you know, I don't know. Maybe he would have tried to keep me alive and, you know, keep me fed longer than some of the other people, but then again, he didn't really even do that for Penny, and, you know, Penny also has a power that is very good in combat. So considering that this version of me probably said fuck it and, you know, indulged in cannibalism, I think he might have been able to make it to the island with Kane and Diana and Penny and Buck. Although it would be close, he'd have to do it pretty quickly considering that he only was able to transport the 4 of them, and then he left the other 2 in the boat to die. So he would have had to be a little bit quicker. So for the rest of Lies and, you know, most of Plague, I would have just hung out on the island with them, you know, kept my head down, and very much stayed clear of Diana, especially after her and Kane started, you know, because I think I would have been sort of similar to Computer Jack in that I might have had a crush on Diana, just like, you know, most of the kids at Coates. But, you know, I'm not stupid. I would figure out to stay very far away from Diana when the 2 of them started, you know, getting intimate. Because even with my cool shockwave power, you know, fucking with Kane when he's taken a liking to Diana, Yeah, that's a death sentence. To be honest, I probably would have wanted to stay on the island when Kane decided to go back to Perdido Beach and save everyone from the bugs, but to be honest, I'm not sure I would have had a choice. I don't think Kane would have let me stay on the island. Because Bug wanted to go, and, you know, Penny obviously wanted to go, because that would mean getting to Lana and, you know, getting her legs back. But me, I would have no reason to leave the island, so that would be dependent on whether or not Kane gave me a choice. But to be honest, I think I probably would have gone with Kane because, you know, his group is really all I've got. And I'm not sure if I'd actually want to stay on the island by myself. So, yeah, I'd probably go with him to Perdido Beach. Now, as one of the most powerful mutants in Perdido Beach during the events of Fear, obviously, I think I would have been, you know, some sort of counsel to Kane. Maybe I'd be like an enforcer of some sort, I don't know. But I think at this point I probably would have developed some sort of weird loyalty to Kane, given, you know, just everything I'd been through with the man. I would obviously know that he's not the nicest man, but given everything that I'd been through with him, I think I just would have followed him just out of everything we'd been through. And obviously, having gone back to Perdido Beach with Kane, I think everything with the bugs would have happened, you know, pretty much exactly the same. I would have been able to defend myself from the bugs with my powers. Now, one thing that I think would actually be pretty interesting for Coat's powers me is when Penny decided to betray Kane. Because if Penny drags Kane down to the middle of Perdido Beach and I see what she's done to him, I think I might have actually taken a shot at Penny. Because don't get me wrong, she would have scared me shitless, but, you know, shockwave powers, you know, they give you confidence. So I think I might have actually taken a stab at Penny, and that combined with the fact that, you know, the whole crowd hates her, and Lana showed up, and Quinn, and everyone else, I think I would have been able to help everyone else force her out of town. And for the rest of Fear, I think I just would have stayed in Perdido Beach in the darkness with Kane and Lana and everyone else, to be honest. And finally, moving on to Light, I don't think much would happen for me up until the very end, because I'd still be in Perdido Beach, and I'd probably still stay in Perdido Beach. Of course, if I was at Perdido Beach, I would have been able to go to the barrier and see my parents. But then again, if I was a Coach kid to begin with, I probably would have had, like, rich parents who just couldn't be bothered to take care of me, so I don't think they'd even be there. But yeah, I don't think much would happen for me in Light up until the very end, and I think it would happen the exact same way it happened if I was a Perdido Beach-powered kid, in that I would go out fighting Gaia. It might have been for different reasons, you know, self-preservation and all that, but I think it would have happened the same way. So if I was a kid trapped within the FAYZ, I either would have been a Perdido Beach coward who survived out of pure luck, or one of the many Coach kids who died a horrible and slow death, or I would have been one of the many Perdido Beach heroes, or one of the last surviving members of Coach Academy. So everyone, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more GON content from this guy right here. And if you haven't already, go and join the GON unofficial Discord. The link will be in the description and in the pinned comment down below. Again, thanks a lot for watching, everyone. Happy FAYZ Day, and I will see you on another video very, very soon. Goodbye, everyone.